What's up everyone? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, I'll be tackling the body bushings on the 1993 GMC Jimmy. I've been putting this off for so long, but the series is almost finished. It's hard to imagine, I've been working on this thing for about a year and a half or so, and even though there's been some content delays over the summer with us building our house and whatnot, I'm still very, very happy and proud of where this series went and how many people have enjoyed it. After this video, I'll be doing a final in-depth tour / review on the truck to give everybody a deep dive into everything that was done, as well as some stuff I did off camera, so keep an eye out for that. So why replace the body bushings? It's a pretty important component because it actually secures the body to the frame. But with these S-Series trucks, these cups can actually hold water. This is a used cup that I have refurbished, put some bed liner and paint on. This is what you don't want. This is one of the front cab corner mounts. Actually, both of the front ones have completely rotted off of this truck. As you guys know, the Jimmy is extraordinarily clean for 200,000 miles. It's a Southern truck, there's no rust. I mean, it's just so clean. But you still have this issue, so we're gonna get this taken care of. Of course, a huge thanks to O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of their continued support. If you guys are needing brakes, they're actually running a Brake Best promotion right now. You can get 2 rotors, pads, and all of the hardware you need to get the job done. So if you'd like to learn more about it, I put a link in the description box below, so check it out. Thanks everyone. Another reason why you might want to replace the body bushings is that over time, the factory rubber mounts do deteriorate. They can crack, they can fall apart, they can squish, and then you have all sorts of fun stuff like misaligned body panels and weird chassis noises. So I'm hoping after all of this is said and done, the Jimmy is going to feel like a brand new truck. Now, you can buy replacement body bushing sets like this. Comes with hardware, the rubber bushings, and everything you need to swap everything out. But I have elected to go the polyurethane route. Polyurethane bushings are significantly firmer than rubber bushings. They will last a whole lot longer. So in this case, I'm more concerned with longevity because this is not a fun task to do. If you don't have the proper equipment, it's not something that you want to do very often, just once in a very blue moon. So because I'm going the polyurethane route, I need to reuse the original hardware. So I have a combination of hardware from this Jimmy and my parts Jimmy. So once I get everything off of this truck, I'm gonna compare it with the parts truck hardware, take whichever pieces are the best, and put it all together. Plus, not everybody has the money to go and buy all brand new hardware, so as long as nothing is damaged, as long as there's no rust and major pitting, the original hardware will be perfectly fine. So the installation is pretty straightforward for these 4-door S10 Blazers and Jimmys, I guess Bravadas too. They use 5 body bushings on either side. I just double checked because I thought I made a mistake. On the diagram for the 4-door, it says that there's 6 body bushings, but there's definitely only 5. First things first, I need to remove the grille and the front bumper. I'm not 100% sure on the rear bumper yet. I might have to take that off, but we'll see. While I have the grille and the front bumper off, I'm also going to be replacing both. On the far corner of the front bumper, there's always been like a slight push-in, where I guess the previous owner just tapped something very gently. It's very hard to see, but I had a good bumper off of my parts Jimmy, so I took it off, repainted it. My local O'Reilly actually has a paint shop, so I got them to match up some paint. Primed, base coat, clear coat. It looks really, really nice. So we'll get this on and the new grille. The truck's gonna look fantastic. Now for the grille. It's held in by 8 T15 Torx screws, as well as a couple of push clips in the bottom corners. To make things simple, I'm going to remove the bumper, the lower valence, and the bumper bracing all in one piece. It's just held in by a handful of nuts and bolts. It's also going to give me a really good opportunity to try out my new tool. It's a 3/8 right angle impact wrench. Sweet. If you're going to be doing something like this on one of these trucks, you really don't have to remove the front bumper. Probably the same goes for the rear bumper as well, the more I think about it. But since I'm replacing mine anyway, it has to come off. If you do take it off, I think it gives you better access to the core support bushings, which are located right there, but again, it's personal preference. Now I can start going down the body and remove all of the original bushing hardware. Depending on whether everything's been taken apart before or how much corrosion there is, you might want to pre-treat stuff with your favorite penetrating fluid. If it's really corroded, you might want to let it sit overnight. Whew. Yikes. The rest of that'll come out when I lift the body up. Now that everything is taken out on the passenger side, we're almost ready to lift that side of the body, but I'm going to go ahead and loosen up everything on the driver's side as well. I'll take a few of the bolts out that are a little harder to get to, some of which are probably super rusty, but I don't want to take them all out because when I tip the body, I still want there to be some attachment points. And here's how we're going to lift the body. Floor jack, a couple 2x6s sitting on the pinch weld. It's important to remember, never jack up body panels using just the floor jack. If you have to use the pinch weld, get some blocks of wood, 2x4s or 2x6s, because it'll evenly distribute the pressure. Also, in doing this, you only want to raise the body up high enough to get the bushings out, not too much. Also remember, when raising the body, slow and steady wins the race. Keep a close eye out for things getting pulled or things running into each other. You know, ground straps, maybe the fan hitting the shroud or the automatic transmission linkage hitting something. You never know, but again, just be careful. I'm as high as I need to go, so I went ahead and placed a couple jack stands underneath for a little bit of peace of mind. These are body alignment shims. They keep the body, well, aligned. If you find any of these, you just got to keep up with them. Remember where they go and how many went in each spot, so you can make sure that the body goes back level just like it was from the factory. I actually had to go a little bit higher to get the two back bushings. Before I could go any higher though, I had to undo this ground strap to connect the body to the frame. It's like I was saying earlier, just keep an eye out for things. So I've run into a little bit of a problem that I've thankfully solved, but it had the potential to really derail this video. So one of the risks that you assume with trying to use original parts is that you may be able to easily see the condition of like these bottom bushing cups because that gets removed first, but when you take the body up and check out the upper bushing cups, you might run into a situation like this one, where it is so chewed up, like there's actually a hole in it. That, I mean, to some that might be usable, but we're not doing that. These sit in here. I basically heated up the bushing cups and pried them all out. Some of them were easier than others. You know, like I said, they've just gotten squished from years of use. But anyway, so the best solution is to replace this with new parts unless you have a wonderful parts vehicle sitting outside that have fantastic bushing cups. I've already rust treated, cleaned, painted these, so they're ready to go. We can go ahead and start putting the new bushing setups together. So there you go. It's just one of those instances where you really should probably weigh the cost-benefit ratio of just buying new hardware versus getting all the way into it and finding that and then your vehicle's stranded. So just a piece of advice. Alright, let's start putting some bushings together. It's very straightforward. Just take one of those upper bushing caps, like I was showing you a second ago, and the bushing with the big metal sleeve. It just slips on. The directions don't say anything about greasing them, but I know that's something that you would typically do with poly bushings because they do have a tendency to squeak if they're not greased properly. So just to be on the safe side and make installation a bit easier, I gave everything a thorough coating in grease. The hollow bushing would sit on top of the lower bushing cup. The frame would be here, and then this would sit on top like so. Alright, the first set is done. Now we can reinstall them. It's as simple as dropping the upper half of the bushings back through the frame, going all the way down the frame, and then lowering the body back down so we can start bolting things back up. Well, it's that time of year again. A special thanks to Robert's Oxygen for always keeping me supplied with all of my welding gas, and now propane. All of the upper bushings are in place. Now let's go ahead and drop the body back on the frame and install the lower bushings. Well, you guys have seen what it takes to change the body bushings in this thing, so everything on the passenger side is done now. I have the lower bushings just loosely tightened in place because I still need to do the driver's side. It's getting late, it's very cold out, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish the driver's side off camera because otherwise it's just gonna be redundant and boring, and then we can get the front end put back together with all those new parts and wrap this thing up. The driver's side front cab mount is by far the worst one on the whole truck. I can't believe with this much rot that there's still a hole to be able to put a bushing in on the frame. Gosh. Look at the upper cup. It is gone. The bolt's about gone too. Shoot. All the mounts are in place, the bolts are in place, the shims are in place, all of that good stuff. So last thing to do is to torque everything down to 52 foot-pounds or 70 Newton meters. Now let's get this front end back together. I need to transfer some of this stuff over to the new bumper. I'm not going to be using this lower valance because it has a little bit of damage on the front, but luckily I have another one. So to get the impact strip off, there's a bunch of little plastic clips that you need to squeeze one by one and be really careful not to break them. The valance is held in by a bunch of 10mm screws, while the parking lights are held on by a few 7mm screws. This is starting to look really nice. The bumper is on, all the hardware is in. I got another lower valance on there that's a lot straighter, and the bumper is perfectly aligned, so we don't have that push in on the passenger side anymore. It looks awesome. Last but not least, the grille. I know some people are probably wondering why I'm bothering to replace the grille when the original one is in such good shape, and to be honest, I really don't have a great answer. It's probably one of those things that I went a little too far down the rabbit hole on, but giving credit where it's due, this reproduction grille is actually really, really nice. It's got this little filler panel thing right here, which I'm not sure what that's for, but the original one doesn't have it, and this one does, so okay. The dark gray or the black looks really nice, and there's legit provisions for the GMC emblem, so we'll just take those off, put those on. I have to transfer over a couple of clips and the side markers. Oh, I did forget, there's a little bit of damage on this corner. This is broken, this is crunched in, so again, that grille is in phenomenal shape, but we're here. I want to do the best job I can, so we're just going to do it all and make it look really pretty. All finished. Man, that looks nice. At this point, I've done everything that I wanted to do to the Jimmy, and I'm just so proud of how it turned out. It looks awesome. The next episode will be the last episode of the Jimmy restoration series. Technically, this is my first ever finished project, so that's quite exciting. To finish things off properly though, I'll be doing an in-depth tour and test drive video, basically a comprehensive review of the truck. I'll also be highlighting everything that I did on and off camera. I'll also be sure to get a bunch of sound clips because with all the craziness that's gone on this year, I completely forgot to do so after getting the new engine and the custom exhaust fitted. It sounds really good. Before I wrap this video up, let's go ahead and hit the road for a moment and see how it is with the new bushings. The thing that I was most curious in finding out is whether the poly bushings would adversely affect ride quality, because polyurethane bushings are a lot stiffer of a material than the stock rubber bushings, so naturally you would expect things to firm up a little bit. Now, when you have a sports car or you're doing something more on the performance end of the spectrum, you want that stiffness, you want to improve handling, but for something like the Jimmy that's, you know, pretty comfortable to a degree, but it's nothing even closely related to performance, you know, I was wondering whether it was going to be too stiff or not. Long story short, compared to how it was before, I honestly don't notice a big enough difference to say whether it is like, oh my gosh, it's super stiff or not. The Jimmy was already fairly stiff to begin with. It still rides really good. I mean, you feel everything. You got the 4x4 suspension, the big tires and stuff, but it's still just as comfortable as it was before. I'm super impressed. But what I do notice is that the truck feels so much more stable. Like going through corners, it doesn't seem to list quite as much. Just going down the road, it feels like, you know, just dead on straight, just perfect. I really don't know how to explain it. It literally feels like a new truck. And I'm sure that's just a culmination of everything that I've done with rebuilding the suspension and the steering and now the poly bushings. But I'm telling you what, the transformation from how this was when I first bought it to how it is now is night and day. I'm sorry, I'm very proud of myself. Well guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Of course, we got one more episode to film on the Jimmy series, and I have a lot more content where that came from with the traditional car reviews as well as the other projects. I'm telling you what, this Jimmy series has been so rewarding to put together and bring to you guys. I'm just blown away by the amount of support this thing has seen over the time, you know, that I've been working on it. I have learned a tremendous amount, you know, so it's not just rewarding to see everybody's enjoyment, but I feel like this thing has furthered me to a whole new level that's going to make producing content for the channel so much simpler and more fun as time goes. But anyway, don't forget to leave a like below. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.